Hello, curious people. I'm Murray Hurps, Director of Entrepreneurship at UTS, and I'm here to answer your curious questions about startups, innovation, and the entrepreneurial journey. This is Startup Curious. Our UTS community has sent in some thought-provoking questions. Let's get started. What is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is deciding what you work on for yourself instead of being told what to work on for someone else. So there are things about you that are special. Your understanding of problems, your skills, your networks, your enthusiasm to do something, and all of that can be directed into an existing kind of large organization or into a new small organization that you build and control. I don't like the dictionary definitions of entrepreneurship because they rely too much on the risk and other components, but for me it's just about capturing the value about you, the things that make you special. Do I need money and specific skills to launch a startup? Increasingly, no. We're not in a world where you need to have racks of servers in a data center or really expensive tech people or those kind of things anymore for these kind of tech-enabled companies. There's wonderful giant commerce platforms that are very accessible. There's wonderful technologies that are very accessible. And as that gets better, it gets more and more accessible. So the skills you need are now less of a requirement, and more people have access to this kind of thing. We do have a specific program called the Rapid Value Creation Program, which is why I'm not allowed to name programs anymore. But it's very focused on people that don't have specific tech skills or money behind them to help them start on their entrepreneurial journey. It's just one example of the kind of things that make that much easier today than it used to be. How do I know if my business idea is viable? Data. So you live in a world of data everywhere, especially in those kind of commerce platforms. So 10 years ago, we had lean startup as a thing where putting ideas up became really cheap and easy to do. So people just threw things at a wall and saw what stuck. Now you can look at giant platforms like Amazon or Etsy or TikTok or whatever and see what's working and then take inspiration from that. So it takes away a lot of the guesswork and experimentation, and it can look and say, is that particular niche performing well, or are there similar ideas that I can learn from? So go to data, see what's working, and then test your own idea against those kind of ideas. What are the funding options for startups and how do I choose the right one? I would question how much you actually need funding to get what you're doing off the ground. There's definitely good examples of things that need money still. So things in research or things with hardware or things that are just quite hard to get off the ground. But the days of raising money, hiring a team, building something that's an app or a marketplace or things like that, they're gone. People are walking in today to places like UTS Startups with their AI, everything, and their platforms and things that they're using. And they don't need venture capital behind them in the early stages like they used to. So it's obviously not true all the time, but more and more that early stage funding is not required anymore. And people instead are starting companies with customers first, funding using customers and then growing from there, which you could argue is much nicer for the people starting companies. What common challenges do startups face and how can they be overcome? Every challenge. There's a thing called effectuation, which is a terrible word, but it's the experience basically of doing something, learning from it and doing something else. And that is what entrepreneurs do. They don't wake up one day with a perfect idea and this kind of genius thing that takes over the world. They wake up one day with something that's probably terrible and they don't realize it, but they're enthusiastic and they start doing things and they learn and they get better and better and better. And every day they're waking up and solving a new problem they haven't solved before. And doing that again and again will expose you to every challenge almost that is possible to imagine having. But that's great. Imagine the learning journey that you can have by doing that compared to more defined roles that you might have in other places. Expect every challenge and look forward to it. How important are technology and tech skills when launching a startup? Less than they used to be. So I remember a time 10 years ago, places like Fishburners down the road, these startup incubators, where if you didn't have that tech co-founder or tech skills yourself, then you didn't really get much done. It was hard to kind of have this rocket ship take off without those kind of really amazing tech skills. That's not the case anymore. So technology has moved along so far. The platforms are so good, the technologies are so good, AI is getting so good And there's so many more opportunities in different niche fields than there used to be. That it's not just about those kind of rock star tech people to make these tech companies. So your ability to work in that more and more complex world with really new, powerful technologies coming through is now more important than your massive background in technology. Is there a formula for the perfect pitch? No, and I'd be cautious around people that say you should pitch in a certain way. For me, the purpose of a pitch is getting support for something. So that parable of someone going into a town and having no food to eat and saying, I've got this magic stone, I'm going to make the most delicious soup you've ever tasted, and I just need some of your help to make this soup with this magic stone that I've got. So you can imagine what happens. They get ingredients from around the towns and leftover meat or leftover vegetables or whatever, and turn in this worthless rock into a wonderful soup that then they can enjoy. That's basically part of what pitching is. To say you've got this wonderful thing that is going to be amazing, but you need someone, a customer, or some talent to join the company, or usually investment to make it into that amazing soup. So I think if it achieves that, then great. If it's just ticking off boxes to make a particular person happy, not so much. What's the most important lesson you've learned from a mistake on your startup journey? I think who I take advice from is the biggest lesson that I've learned. So in your entrepreneurial journey, there will be unending numbers of people that are happily trying to help you with what you're doing and offering advice on do this or whatever. And you have to realize that advice has no impact on them. It has a large impact on you. And often people don't realize the damage that they can do by giving bad advice. And you can avoid that by making sure you're listening to people that do have the right kind of recent, relevant knowledge for you. How do I maintain work-life balance as a startup founder? All work, I think, comes at the cost of what you do outside of work. The kind of cheesy answer is to say entrepreneurship is nice because you can choose the kind of entrepreneurship that makes sense for you, and maybe you work in a field that you like, or in a schedule that makes sense for you, or things like that. And that's kind of true, but then often, there's no one else to delegate a lot of the responsibility to, especially in early stage companies. And a lot of people are super motivated by what they do. So often that's not really much flexibility either. So in terms of the impact it'll have whatever impact you allow it to. It can be more flexible and can be more rewarding, but often can be a lot of work as well. So just be prepared for that. What is the one piece of advice you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Be critical of advice. That, as I said before, that filter that you will build up as an entrepreneur that allows you to figure out, does that person know from recent experience what I'm asking them about? That is your filter that you need to build up as an entrepreneur. So be careful who you take advice from. Make sure it's the right people. Develop that filter. Godspeed. That was all the questions for today. I hope you learned something new. Until next time, stay curious.